Hey, what's up? Dean Super Performance back at the shop and again on Jeff's S10. So yesterday, motor's in. Got the Flowtech headers on, forward facing headers. Got the motor mounts done. So today I decided to start doing the fuel system, and I started with the return line, which is coming off the back of that rail there. So it's a 6 feed, well, a 6 return, -6 return. It comes down behind the motor. I got it clamped to the frame, and then it goes into that side of the regulator, and then off the top of the regulator, it comes back over the frame rail to inside. It goes down, and then it comes to that fitting there that I had welded onto his fuel cell. Then I took and ran the 10 that were running up to the engine, and that is on that fuel rail over there. You can see it right there at the end of the shadow of my finger. And that also comes down the back of the motor. You can kind of see it right there, comes over, and I clamped the 6 to the frame, and then I took and just for now zip tied the 10 to the 6, ran it all the way back. I changed the fittings in the filter to 10s, so it connects here, and then it comes out this side. It was 45, jumps back over the rail and goes back to this straight fitting, which I'm gonna do a Y with 2 reducers to 6s because there's 2 6AN feeds. I did the second pump. They're all wired in. I got the cap back on it. The little holder I made, which doesn't really need this anymore because the 2 pumps sit down in the sump like perfectly in the foam. This fuel cell has a foam in it, so the foam kind of pushes and wraps around the 2 pumps. I don't know if we can see it. Yeah, so you can see the 2 pumps sitting down in there, and then the foam, how the foam like comes around them. So the pumps are like real sturdy. The wires are a little bit messy, but getting inside of this is a little bit hard, so I left the wires a little long just in case we ever need to pull the pumps. The pumps can actually come all the way up and out. And then I went ahead and I fed the harness up through the firewall where that oval shaped hole has always been, that I always say I'm gonna patch in, and then I never done it for whatever reason. So I got the harness out, and then I ran the majority of the front stuff underneath the intake, so it comes out here. And then we got the cam sensor here. This is a 58X motor, so we got the cam sensor here, and then the coolant sensor is plugged in. This is the fuel pressure, which I ordered a fitting to go in this rail, like an 8AN adapter that I'll put in this rail. I have these 2 fittings are coming, the ORBs, the 8 ORB to 8AN. They're coming. So I'll put the transducer right here for the fuel. I'll probably put it pointing down and plug this in, so it's not hidden but not totally visible. Then still waiting on the elbow, but we have to see kind of, I can pull this harness out a bunch, you know, and it can come up pretty high. So we have the TPS and the IAC, and then the air intake temp sensor, which I might put the intake temp sensor in the intake. I'm not real sure. I'm going to look into that a little bit. I know the issue with putting it in there is that it'll heat soak from the engine. If it's just kind of sitting there, all the heat from the engine will rise and kind of heat soak. But at the same time, if it's blowing air down through the intake, it should, but we'll have to see. Or maybe I can put it in there to try it, and then if it doesn't work out good, we can move it out to the intake tube. That's not a big deal. I got the crank sensor plugged in. I got the knock sensors on it. Yes, we are using knock sensors. So those are on it. The starter's on its way here. I did put the flanges, the outside flanges on the headers. I've never seen V-band clamps like this, but we're gonna try them. It's what we have. These are not quite, they're bigger than 3-inch. Like, these are not your standard 3-inch V-band, so it's a little bit different. And then, so the harnesses all ran in, and I pulled, these are the power wires. So this is like your direct to battery fused. This is your fuel pump feed. And then you have these ones here. So you have your 12-volt switched ignition and then a battery ground. I also have to get the wideband adapter and then the main power harness in. So I left the wideband plug in here just for now. I'm gonna get the, once I figure out the downpipe and all that stuff, I'll put the wideband in. And the wideband wire is really long. Then it has an adapter harness with it. So I don't want to stuff this out and have a big length of wire out. I also left, you can see them right there. That's the injector harness. And the other half of it is up in there somewhere. Or no. The other half of it might still be outside because I have to change the pinout on it. Not sure. No, I put it in. So the injector harness is inside. I'm going to leave it inside. Also, this is the coil plug for even. And then I took the odd, which the tag's a little crunched, and pulled it out of that harness, pulled it all the way back to where it splits off main. So now the coil harness is really long for the driver side so that I could do the remote mount coils. Kind of almost thinking mounting all the coils here. This is just a dead space. There's nothing going here. So we may do the intercooler here. I don't really know, but for now I'm thinking of doing the coils like on here. But I have to see. I got stuff everywhere. There it is. I got the ICT billet universal harness or universal wires. So I got those. So what I'll have to do is kind of see how long these are. Kind of just mock it up on the farthest plug on the driver's side and see where it can get me to for that side of the coils. It may be something that we mount on maybe the fender up here. If I do it here, if I do this side here, I'll do that side there, and then that would leave room possibly for the intercooler. It's something I got to play with. I also looked at like the ICT alternator bracket that goes here. So I think we might go with that. I did order the 4-inch stainless, the Marmon, whatever it is, the downpipe flange. So I ordered all that. That's on its way. We have the wastegates here. These are VS Racing wastegates. He did 2 wastegates because this is a divided, and we are going to keep it divided. The flange for the turbos in the mailbox. I got that big brown box right there is the 3-inch stainless to make the hot side, which is going to be kind of a short run. I'm going to grab a fitting real quick. All right. So I got a 90 here, and just to kind of see where it would be. Ouch. So might be a little bit on struggle street with this side. This side I know won't be an issue. There's plenty of room over here. I should be able to cut this back far enough. That header there, I noticed this today. If you look across, trying to get you in there. Kind of look across. That one's kind of pointed a little bit upward. It's hard to see, but it's pointed a little bit upward. Whereas this one's pointed more level. But it is turned in a little bit, so that kind of helps a little bit. So what I'll need to do is probably cut this, or I have these 180-degree bends that, yeah, the 90 works out to be a little bit sharper of a 90. Kind of holding it the wrong way, but it's just a hair sharper of a 90. And I can make this a true 90. You can see this one's not quite a true 90, but these are not quite 180 totally. Like the rebound, they undo a little bit, but you can cut it to be a true 90. So it may be that I do that, or do a couple of pie cuts off of this side. Whichever way, what I need to do is fit the turbo in there first. Like I said maybe in the other video. So, you know, this is your feed side, so this has to be the top. We're going to take this housing and clock it so that it's vertical. And get some tools. Alright then. Alright, 911. Can't be a 12. No, it's just stuck on the fat part of the housing. Of course. Oy vey. So, I have to use a wrench first time, but I'll clock it. I will clock it to where I could use a socket on this. Maybe? You dirty bastards. How did they tighten that? Holy freaking hell. Let me loosen this. Alright, so we're going to clock it more like this. The compressor housing, it may stay that way if we do the intercooler on the passenger side. But we're going to clock it like this. Put the flange on. And I will, you can see a little bit how the ports are just a hair different. So I will put the flange on here, and I'll match this housing to the actual flange that we have. It's a Maven Performance divided billet flange. I'll have that down here tomorrow. Let's see if we can kind of compare it to the gasket. The gasket is usually a pretty good sign of, I'll set you in there. A little chunk of shit in there, huh? But this is a pretty good sign of how far off. Yeah, you can see the housing's way, way off. Hold on. Okay, so you can see now how far off this is on both sides. So what I'll do is I'll use the carbide, and I will gently manipulate this little by little, and I'll make it flow in so that there's no hard edge for it to hit against. You do have to be careful that you don't take too much meat off, but there's, like you can see, there's a lot of meat on this flange. The only time you have to watch out for is when these casting humps are more way up here. Which, I mean, the reality is on this turbo, I don't know why they would have these cast into it. I understand the bolt has to go in there, but you can do studs, you know, and you would never have to worry about it, you know. And on that side, it's not even that big, you know, so it's closer to the hole. So they could have brought this casting out, you know, quite a bit farther. But these, it's a VS Racing. These are good turbos. So yeah, I'll get all that squared away tomorrow so that I don't forget and not do it. And then hopefully I will get it positioned in the truck. I think, kind of thinking about making the housing flange, or yeah, the inlet flange, where I make a bracket in a sense that runs across frame rail to frame rail. I may end up cutting this core support center out. It's not going to hurt anything because, again, we're not using a radiator. So I can cut that out, and that'll give me a bunch of room. I could probably even cut the top out to make room for this 90. I may even actually do that because we don't need this, so it may just open everything up. I'm going to do that, actually. And what I'll do with this, so you see they miter cut it. So instead of just cutting straight up and leaving the tube end open, I'll cut it out here, you know, an inch out here, but then I'll cut this tube up, you know, at this edge. I'll cut it up, and then I'll cut over, and then I can take this top edge and roll it down so it caps off the end of the tube. I'll put a couple little welds on it, no big deal. Same for this side. The bottom, I may just cut the tube out, cut a couple little pieces to go on it, tack them in there just to close the ends off. We'll kind of see what happens there. So yeah, I mean, that's getting there, getting along, getting more parts ordered. Like the last thing we're gonna order is the intercooler. Once we figure out where the turbo placement is and how everything's gonna run. So, because like I'm thinking if the, you know, if the compressor's pointing this way, I think it is. No, it's gonna be pointing driver's side. It's gonna be pointing driver's side. I had it's backwards on the table. Yeah, I'll get it worked out tomorrow. I'll figure out the height that it needs to be, where the flange needs to be, all that, and start getting the turbo placed in there, because I do have to keep in mind the exhaust coming off the back. You know, I have so much limited room. I have to get a water pump, you know, and run a belt with accessories. So it's going to be tight, but the front of the turbo should be here. I'll do a little measuring here. I started measuring before, and then I stopped, and all that good stuff. So from where the downpipes, it's about 12 inches. Big turbo. So 12 inches from the front of the grill puts us right there. So there is not a lot of room to get a downpipe in there. We might have to rethink something. He wants a dual downpipe, but we might have to rethink maybe turning the turbo a little bit to get the downpipe away from it, do a single downpipe. Who knows? Or maybe set it a little bit higher up. Might be an option. We'll have to look tomorrow. I mean, we want the center of the turbo here. So it may be, you know, bring the turbo a lot farther out. Try and blow all the crap off the bumper. But we'll see tomorrow. But for I'm gonna end this one off here. It's kind of just you about everything I did today. So I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to be notified of new videos, and leave me a comment. I appreciate you watching. Have a good day. Be safe.